name's Brian Garrigan. I'm from Simpli.fi. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales. Simpli.fi foundationally is known as a programmatic DSP. We also have our own in-house DMP. And over the past couple of years, we've acquired a few software companies, and we kind of have set out on the goal to make buyers' lives easier, ultimately. What we're going to do today is we're going to specifically talk about how you can future-proof your advertising strategy utilizing CTV. And we want to put an emphasis on how CTV potentially could run parallel in the future in a cookie-less environment. Okay, so a lot to unpack. I got 15 minutes. We'll get through it pretty quick, but here we go. Let's dive into it. So a little bit about Simpli.fi, just to kind of give you a quick overview of our organization. We have about 2,000 clients. They're live on the platform today. It's about 600 employees strong. We're located in Fort Worth, Texas. I joke that that's the tech capital of the world, but a great place to go visit if you haven't been down there. We have 140,000 active monthly campaigns that are live on our DSP at any given time. So just an immense amount of data and information that we have at our fingertips to see what's working and what's not working in this space. And we have, at any given time as well, about 45,000 active advertisers that are on the DSP. When you look at CTV specifically and you look at some of the trends there, we're right at about an annual number at about 11,000 plus advertisers. And then obviously when you look at the campaign number, that magnifies that as well. Just a quick brief history of Simpli.fi. We were founded in 2010 with the goal to disrupt the DSP space, I guess is probably the best way to kind of classify that. We've had the same executive team in place since then, but ownership as far as larger scale investors has changed throughout the course of that time period. Currently, we're owned by 2 PE firms. Blackstone, which you may know, they're one of the largest PE firms in the nation, has a majority stake within our organization. And GTCR, which is also a significant player within the space, owns a minority share. In fact, GTCR sold their initial investment to Blackstone in 2017, or I should say in 2021, and rebought in as a minority owner, which I think is a huge compliment to us because they see the opportunity that's yet still to come for Simpli.fi. All right, so a little bit about what makes us unique. I had mentioned earlier that we have our own proprietary DMP. So we are in the data collection business as much as we are in the media execution business. And when we collect data, we do it in a really unique way. We don't put it into a segment. So we leave it in its raw or its unstructured format, okay? I would argue that we could probably replicate just about anything any other DSP can do. We can overlay third-party data on top of programmatic inventory. We can work with custom segments or build custom segments. We can execute against first-party data. But all that is somewhat commoditized these days, and most DSPs can offer that solution. We can do that too if that's a need. But where we become really unique is in the fact that we're collecting our own data, and because we do that, we have a few unique targeting tactics that you can't get through competitors. I'm going to talk a little bit more about a few of those, but ultimately what this leads to is an opportunity to potentially have what we like to say just a better look at targeting, some more robust solutions potentially when it comes to trying to problem solve on how you can reach that end user. We're going to have a more granular look at reporting. When you're working with data in its unstructured fashion, you can also report at a much more granular level and report at the data level instead of the segmentation level. So we fix a lot of problems when it comes to reporting. And then transparency is a big kind of foundational element for us because when we showcase the fact that we can do what we can do with data, we need to be transparent all the way through. So that's everything from the planning side to the execution and back to the reporting and pricing models as well. Because you are your own DMP, it also gives us a few advantages within the cookie deprecation era, I guess is the best way to say that as well, right? When you're gathering your own data, you can choose who to gather it from and how you want to gather it and how you want to potentially make that available for targeting, right? So combining unique data or the ability to bring data into the platform in a unique way, coupled with unique inventory, I would argue is a catalyst for vendor selection these days. So not only do we have the unique data that we just talked about in the unstructured fashion, but these are the inventory sources that we represent. And we've made some significant advancements over the past couple of years within the CTV space specifically. Whereas average, maybe call it CTV providers, maybe represent about anywhere from 40 to 60% of all the inventory out there, we're at about 95% when it comes to all the CTV inventory that's available. And because we represent such a large amount of inventory, we fix a lot of problems when it comes to scale and precision, specifically in targeting a CTV campaign into a regional market. I want to talk a little bit about cookies. Cookies are going to affect and disrupt the industry in a couple different ways. One is going to be on the targeting side, but I think we're actually probably going to feel it more so on the attribution side, as we have been so used and accustomed to understanding what's working and what's not working within a campaign due to the foundational cookie that's part of it, right? And in fact, today, 75% of marketers are still heavily relying on third-party cookies. So the stats that you were going to unpack here over the next couple slides, I think are going to be kind of eye-opening. Google Chrome has only deprecated 1% of the third-party cookies that are out there. However, that 1% equates to about 30 million users. So every 1%, you can imagine just how big of an impact that has on the ad space. And then the IAB estimates that signal loss has already impacted advertisers' ability to target and track 50 to 60% of the users across the internet. So that's a big number, and it's just going to get bigger, right? So the expectation is that the cookie likely will be deprecated by the third quarter of this year. That's kind of what I think we're driving towards. However, I don't think anybody really knows, right? Even people at Google don't really even know, you know? So anybody that tells you they know, they probably are just maybe talking directionally when it comes to that, because there's probably some evidence that this likely is going to be delayed. Google's Privacy Sandbox initiative is having some issues and not, I would argue, agreeing with some of the organization, or some of the people that are involved in the organization. And then they have this massive antitrust investigation within the UK that could be delaying things as well. So we'll see what happens, but I think the best thing that anybody can do is just be prepared, right? Because nobody really kind of knows what's going to happen. We can understand kind of what the outcome is, but I think we don't really know when we're going to get there or how we're going to get there. The good news is that Simpli.fi has never been reliant on a cookie. While we work with tons of different organizations that have cookies and we use them every day, it's not a necessity when you're in the data collection business as well as the media execution business. And one of the tactics that we have that I wanted to kind of showcase today is a newer tactic within the industry that we've titled ZTV. It's basically zip code-based television. And ZTV, what we've done here is we have, on the DMP side, gone off and indexed all the top demos in each zip code nationwide. And then we couple that with ACR data, and it allows us to deliver an insightful media recommendation for the zip codes that matter most for you. And when we do this, and when we collect the data on our own, we do it in a way that allows us to remove the mass amount of identifiers from the campaign, and we can implement CTV campaigns on large screen with the same inventory that you're used to implementing against now at about half the CPM. So our starting CPMs for ZTV are at $10. That means if you have a PMP that might even be on a higher scale entry point for a CPM, we likely can potentially implement that PMP at about half at what it's being implemented against now, okay? This would be demo-targeted solution sets. This doesn't replicate if you need 100% delivery with some sort of identifier involved in the process. However, if you can rely on buying TV the way that it's historically been purchased by linear buyers, then we have a solution set that could save you quite a bit of money or get you a significant amount more of inventory against any execution that you're planning. And what's great about it too is we have a tool that allows us to identify what households within any market have high linear coverage and which ones have high CTV coverage. And then we can we can provide a recommendation to allow you to increase that coverage within that marketplace utilizing this tool as well. So I thought it would be a good idea to showcase it a little bit more by bringing a case study into the fold. So we worked with Choctaw Casinos, I think that's how we say that, with TRG down in the DFW market. It's a lot of acronyms to throw at everybody at one time there. And this is kind of a quick overview of what their flight looked like. So it was about a 3.5-month flight in Q4. Mid-sized budget, $40,000 was potentially what they contracted with us for. We ended up delivering about 3.9 million impressions, slightly over what we contracted with them for. And we delivered large screen inventory, quality inventory, I would argue, at a $9.93 CPM. So what does this kind of mean? And you can also see the VCR, and then we had a secondary KPI in there, which we marked, or which we were looking at visitation as well. So we were able to look at how many people actually went into the casino that saw the CTV ad. I think it's great to look at this in a couple of different ways. One is, if you were to take a $40,000 CTV budget and execute it with a typical $25 CPM, you would, on average, see about 1.5 million impressions for that campaign. When they executed the CTV campaign with us, utilizing our ZTV solution, we were able to deliver about 4 million impressions. So a significant amount more versus what potentially the industry norms are. There's a couple other different ways that you can slice that too. What would it cost to potentially deliver this many impressions for a typical $25 CPM? And a campaign like the one we just outlined, if we were using a $25 CPM, likely would cost just under $100K. When they executed against our platform, it was at that $40,000 level. So what does this all mean for independent agencies? How does this potentially play into maybe some of your future planning? I think, one, you can double your CTV impressions without changing your budget. I think every brand that you represent would love to hear that. Two, it allows us to disrupt forced CTV or forced cable buys. There we go. Or similar type of targeting zones that are unable to be broken. So we have the ability to go into a regional market, scale into that area, and customize the delivery based on what zip codes matter most for your household. And then we can increase the household coverage by targeting only the households that matter. If you want to heavy up in linear markets with CTV, we can find those linear markets and then execute in the areas that make the most sense. And then ultimately, this allows us to layer in the transparency that I had mentioned earlier and bring that into the fold as well, because now you no longer have a forced buy or a forced solution that you're ultimately executing against. You have the ability to see where your inventory is being delivered and have control over that delivery moving forward. So that's all I got. Thank you very much.